Welcome to Amanda Spann's Minimal Viable Podcast, the show that gives you a real and relatable look at the world of tech and entrepreneurship from industry all-stars. Today on MVP, we'll meet with majority women chief video strategist and executive producer Diamonde Williamson. We'll discuss learning how to walk away from a business with grace and power, and Diamond will share her experiences breaking ties with Blossom, a digital TV network she built from the ground up, and how she found the strength to venture again. MVP is brought to you by Simplero, the all-in-one software for online entrepreneurs. Most digital coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs are using 7+ online tools that still don't meet their needs. Simplero reduces the headache of product management by allowing you to host your mailing list, online courses, membership communities, marketing automation, and digital products all on one platform. It's my personal go-to tool of choice for selling my ebooks and courses, and I think it's pretty affordable, simple to use, and easy to get started. So if you like to experience less tech and less stress when selling your content or products online, check out Simplero at simplero.com. That's Simplero.com. Now let's start the show. Hello, Diamond, and welcome to MVP, Minimal Viable Podcast. Super happy to have you and to hear your story today and kind of dive into you about what it's like being a founder yourself, being a true entrepreneur, and there's a lot of different capacities. I know you've started a couple of different businesses, but also, you've left the company as well. So I'm excited to kind of talk about that side of entrepreneurship because I don't think that's talked about enough, or, the process of like what entrepreneurs go through and the turmoil and the twists and turns that businesses can often take. So,
right.
I would love to start with like just hearing a little bit about your background. Are you from Atlanta originally, or where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? Tell me more.
Yeah, so I was born in Oklahoma, and I was raised in Oklahoma. Me and my mom for the most part. And then when she got married, we moved to California because her husband was in the military. So we moved to California in middle school. In high school, I moved to Georgia. My senior year, I moved to Kentucky. And then I came back to go to do undergrad at the University of West Georgia, where I originally studied interior design. But they got rid of the program, so I was like, what am I going to do? And I ended up in management because at the time I really thought I would do retail management because I loved the idea of managing something. But when I took an entrepreneurship class, I was like, oh, yeah, I think this could be it. This is what I want to do. And so that really started my entrepreneurship journey. Like I've done a few things. I really committed to doing whatever it is that I wanted to do at the time. So out of college, I did photography. I was assistant to Maddie James, who was a style blogger. I learned business operations. I was assistant to a speaker, so I learned all about digital marketing as a speaker, as an influencer, which was like 7 years ago. They weren't called that, but that's what they were. And then I got into creating YouTube videos and television shows. I mean, it really runs the gamut. I think that all of my experience, number one, working with entrepreneurs, but also in just doing whatever I want to do, has helped me, like, today.
No, totally understand it. And all those experiences kind of build upon each other. Like, people often ask me, like, oh, you've done so much, and, like, you're all over the place. And it's like, no, like, these skills, they all build upon each other. They all culminate. And, like, when you start something new, you're not starting from scratch. You're starting with experience. Like,
exactly.
And if you start, there's opportunity everywhere if people train their mind to look at it. So like in that job that you think is dead end, and you're like, oh, I hate this, and I'm working here at this call center or whatever, like you might be learning people management skills. You might be learning customer service from when you become an entrepreneur. So like,
right.
I totally understand that.
And I've always let my desires, like the desires of my heart, guide me to the jobs that I get. I think it was as soon as I graduated college, I got a job in public relations. I was still doing work on the side for different people, but I was working at a PR company, and it was there that I realized, you know what, I'm not going to do jobs for money anymore. I'm going to do jobs that I love, that teach me something, that lead me in the direction that I want to go. Like I've always let that guide me so that I don't end up at a place where I feel like I'm wasting my time or I'm not learning something.
Totally get that. I think that's a good mantra to live by, right? Like, I think a lot of people, a lot of people are very have like a very codependent relationship on money. Like, yeah, we all need money, we all need to pay our bills, but especially when you're in your 20s, this is a time where you can, unless you're like swarming in debt or something like that, or you have obligations, you have a child or something like that. Like, I understand why people aren't as risk averse then, but this is a time to kind of figure out what you do and don't like, and to take those chances. You can't figure those things out unless you kind of just do them.
Right. And without thinking about, oh, am I going to want to do this for the next 5 years? Like, that doesn't matter. We don't know. We cannot predict that far ahead. All I can say is, this is what I want to do today. This is the direction in which I want to move. So I'm going to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know after a while you decided to form Blossom. And I'm curious to know how you conceptualized the company and why you felt like it was necessary to do.
Yeah, so I just wanted to create video content for years, and I've done that for different people. And after working in television for a while, I just wanted to be able to see the fruits of my work come to life a little quicker. So TV, we would film for 6 months or 3 to 6 months, and then it would come out 3 to 6 months later. And I just wanted to see my work faster, and I had a lot of ideas. So that's where Blossom came along, because I knew that I had a lot of ideas. I could see them come to life faster, and I had control over them. My experience in television helped me to really bring those ideas to life, because creating videos and creating concepts are not easy. But it was my work in television that really helped me with that. And so the idea for Blossom came about because I wanted to see Black women in all of their goodness, in all of our experiences, because I worked in reality television. I worked for VH1 at some point, I worked for TV One. So I was responsible for showing Black women in this way that was very toxic. And I didn't want to be a part of that, so I wanted to be a part of the solution, and that's where Blossom came in. I imagined it to be this place where Black women can be seen in all different facets, and it eventually evolved into an opportunity for other women who have content for Black women to be able to distribute their work as well. Like, I just wanted us to be able to see ourselves, because I saw myself in Oprah, in like Kenan and Kel and all that. I saw myself in a lot of things, and I wanted Black women to be able to see that too.
So, and I think that's really like honorable and noble of you. Do you think when going into that territory, did you have any kind of pushback from people? Because I feel like I've heard, on a couple different fronts, right? So, like, I remember sitting in on a panel like years and years ago. This is probably almost a decade ago. Listening to a young lady who was working for BET at the time, and people were complaining at the time about, like, why don't we have more content on BET that is well-rounded and that depicts Black women and just Black people in a variety of different lights. And what she responded was, she was like, we do produce that content, and we put it on, we run it on the network, but it doesn't get a lot of support, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, we end up having to pull those shows because the viewership is so low. So do you think that, as much as, like, I mean, we talk about, like, changing the narrative, and, do we possibly have a problem kind of internally within our community with, doing something outside of just talking about changing the narrative when you actually have the content that's out there? Like, are people apprehensive to support it? Do they push back on it? Do they just not watch it? Like, what have you seen in that regard?
Yeah, I think it's all of it, but I also think that we have to give ourselves time. Like, there's so many different factors. Have we given enough time to show the different types of stories? Like, so if we throw the show that's different up on BET for 2 seasons, maybe that's not enough time. Maybe it's the 3rd season that's going to be the hit, right? But it's tough with channels because they have a certain amount of time slots. That's where Netflix comes in. That's where Hulu comes in. That's where having the content on our own YouTube channels and things like that comes in, because we have time. It's you can tell that with Issa Rae's YouTube show. Not everybody watched the first season. Not everybody watched the second season. Maybe it was the third season where people came in, right? It's the same with Scandal. Maybe for me, it was the fourth season of Scandal where I came in and then had to go back and watch it, right? So it's like sometimes it takes time, and if there's no space to give it time, then it's not fair to say that I didn't get enough viewership. It takes time. Like the highest rated season of Real Housewives of Atlanta is not the first season of Real Housewives of Atlanta, right?
So I mean, that's a great point.
Yeah, it really takes time, and I don't want to I believe in the possibility of these stories, and I believe in the possibility of the shows that are different, that are not reality. I believe in them. I just believe that it takes time, which is why I'm really committed to it.
That's fair. So tell us a little bit more about Blossom and what type of content you guys had on the network. If examples, some of the shows or that you had on kind of the streaming platform, and a little bit more about what your role on a day-to-day looked like there.
Yeah, so I started it, it was just me, and I really became a good salesman at that time. I was like, look, this is the vision. This is what I want to do. I need videographers. I need all these different types of people. And so initially my role was to build, create the strategy, create the plan, create the content, bring on the content partners, come up with the agreements, figure out our marketing strategy, everything. So one of the things that I learned, because as an assistant to speakers and influencers, I was essentially a brand manager, responsible for managing the brand. So what I knew was, and from studying television, what I knew was that if we can get people invested in our content creators, our hosts, that we can get people invested in the platform. So I created a show. There was these two women that came up to me and they were like, I want to do a show about mothers. And they were both mothers individually, separately. They wanted to do a show. We put them together. The show's called Melanin Mamas. They came up with the name, but we put them together. We helped them develop the concept. We pushed the show out. So that was Melanin Mamas. That was one of the shows. We had a show. I forget the name of it. I'm so sorry. It's been over a year. But we had a young lady named Brittany Jack, my friend to this day. I knew that I wanted to do a show. So I saw how popular these pastors were on Instagram. They had really big mega churches, but they were, their social media strategists were super smart. So they would put these clips online. They were shareable. And I was like, I want to do that. So we created this show about miracles. And Brittany Jack, I found her. She's a woman of God and super cool, super relatable. Gave her a show. We had a mini live audience, and she broke down the different ways that we can create miracles in our life. So that was one of the shows. We did a show about entrepreneurship. We had a show about politics called Unrefined, where we had a young black lady named Claudia Erica on live Facebook every Wednesday morning talking about different political strategies, different things we need to know in politics. This was maybe 2 to 3 years ago. We had a sketch comedy show called All Black. I'm trying to think of the other shows. I had my own show on there, my own talk show in which I got to talk to black women creators and entrepreneurs. And so many more. We worked with a lot of, content partners to release their short films, their documentaries, their web series. So I was really committed to making sure that we had content on our platform that really reflected black women, specifically between the ages of 18 and 32, in all of their different ways. And it was just so great. I loved it. I loved creating original content. That was the part that I loved the most, was being able to create the original content and being able to provide, not only was our audience black women, our team was black women, and I think that's the only way that it was able to translate as authentic was because the people behind the scenes looked like the people that were watching.
Right, it was for us, by us, and,
for real,
sounds
for
like
real.
you were,
Right, and there sounds like there's like a degree of, beyond like degree, like there is honestly, like you see yourselves in the character, and there's a commitment to portraying them in the way that you understand you would want to be portrayed.
Yes, and I remember we did this, we did a beta test very early on, maybe about 7 months in, did a beta test, and this black lady was like, you're not going to make no money off of this. This is too niche of a market. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't even know how many black women there are in the United States alone. Just if we talk about the United States alone, and if that many black women were to give us $6.99 a month, like, we're good. But for you to identify a niche market as something that can't make money, I was like, girl, this is your last time being involved. This is my last time talking to you, because we don't need that type of energy when we're building something for people that look like you. That doesn't make sense to me.
Right. Or like, at least if it's not for you, just get out of the way.
Yeah, just move. You know, like,
you don't have to put that bad juju over here.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need that.
And there's an understanding, like, okay, if you have constructive criticism, like, okay, if you tell me that this niche market can't make any money, what can we do then? Like, I'm down with people saying, like, I don't know about that, but, like, what about this? But if you don't come with a solution, like, we don't have anything to talk about.
Right. Or, like, at least just being, like, here's the thing, like, businesses don't, and I think there's this fallacy that, like, you know, businesses all have to be like the next Facebook, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's not the case.
Even if you had 1,000 women anywhere in the world paying $6.99 a month, I still consider that a huge success. Right.
Yes,
like,
we are doing great and excellent.
Success.
Yeah,
like,
and the goal is, like, if 1,000 women can see themselves, what type of world we're creating, what type of lives we're changing, because it's not just about them watching, it's what they take away from it and then what they put into the world. Like, it's about money. We want to get this money. We also want to change lives.
Totally. And I think that's incredibly noble of you, and I think, you know, I can only imagine how powerful that was for the content creators on the network who felt like, probably for the first time ever, that they had an opportunity to articulate their voice, you know, and to get their message out there in a way that they felt supported, and in a way they felt that they likely had community for the first time.
Right. And I felt that's something I'm very proud of, because even though I've left, like, I've still kept the same vision. The vision and mission for me and the work that I do has always been the same. Like, how do I make sure black women feel seen, make sure black women feel heard, make sure they feel empowered, valued, educated, while also feeling entertained as well, right? Because we like to be entertained. We like to feel good. But I want to make sure through entertainment they can feel seen, valued, heard, empowered, educated.
Absolutely. Now, you touched on a point about you moving on from the company. What prompted you to walk away from kind of your own company, and, like, what prompted that, and how did that feel for you?
Yeah, so I left because for years, for like the middle part of my 20s, I was like not taking care of myself. And it wasn't until last year where my body was like, oh, yeah, like, this isn't working. This isn't sustainable. We are not going to get any further operating in this way. I was very sick. I ended up in the hospital, and I took last summer off really to take care of myself. And not to mention I had been in therapy for almost a year. So as I started taking care of myself, as I spent more time in therapy, I realized, like, I'm not doing Blossom for me. I've spent my whole life doing things for others to serve others, right? And that's what Blossom had become. And, like, I needed to step back and be able to focus on me. Like, what do I really want for myself instead of what do I want for others? What is it that Diamond wants for herself? And in doing that analysis, I realized I don't want to do this. I don't want this type of pressure. I want to work on myself. I want to join a team. I want to become a better team player. I don't want to leave right now in this way. And so I left, and it was hard because a lot of my identity that I had developed over the last 3 years was attached to being the founder of this. Being the founder of Blossom opened so many doors for me, got me in a lot of places. And I remember one of my friends being like, why would you leave? You've been in Forbes. And that's when I had to be like, this is not the best thing that I'm going to do. And so I had to take like a month off of social media to make sure that I was like doing the right thing, handling my business, making sure I felt aligned. And I did. And I left early October. And literally I have felt the freest that I've ever felt since leaving, since being able to say, you know what, all I want to do is be the best and greatest executive producer there is. Executive producers aren't necessarily trying to figure out how to market a business. You know what I mean? Like, there's a team for that. I want to create the best content because that's what I do. I want to tell the most stories because that's what I love. And so being able to focus on doing that and being excellent at that and joining teams that want to do that too, like I feel amazing.
That's wonderful to hear.
Thank you.
I'm very happy for you. I'm happy that you're in this space. You sound light,
Thank you.
and airy, and I
feel it
hear
too.
That good. And I can totally actually relate to that. And like, I've walked away from a few companies, and like, every time I've walked away from a company, it's been hard, and I've grappled with it. I've had turmoil. But every single time I've walked away, it's like the best feeling you've ever felt. Because if you're considering walking away from your baby, something you built from the ground up, like it is like the closest thing I compare it to is like a relationship. Like you are
absolutely.
You have to make this clean break and like rip the Band-Aid off or whatnot and just kind of get it over with. But like once you're on the other side of it, you realize that like you're bigger than your business. And
exactly.
There's so many elements of you outside of what's attached to this thing that you built. Like you are a whole person outside of work.
And there's no me. There's no business without me. So if I'm not together, ain't none of this together.
You're the magic, right?
Right. Hello.
And I think another valuable lesson in that I think is walking away, and this is something I've made peace with myself about, is that walking away isn't the same thing as quitting.
Right.
You didn't quit on your business, right? You didn't just throw in the towel. You didn't give up. You didn't necessarily fail. But you have to know when something, and we use this term so much now, when things aren't serving you. But like, maybe you weren't the right person to do this at this time. Maybe it's something that you can revisit, right? Maybe it's something that you can come back to, or maybe like you try this and you realize, you know what? This isn't for me. This isn't what God called me to do right now in my life, in this space, in this mindset. Like maybe I need to get to the next level of myself before I take something like this on.
This is not the end. Like I am not. Especially, like, I want to maximize my talent. I want to maximize my time. I want to, like, be interested in what I'm doing. And if I'm not interested, and if I don't feel like I'm evolving, I'm not interested in wasting my time. I'm really not interested in wasting my time. So, and what I love about myself is that I can hear God very clearly. And if I can't hear him, then I got to go get somewhere. I got to take some time. I got to create some space in my life so that I can hear him. So he tells me, look, you got to go, girl. This ain't working no more. You did what you had to do, and now we got to do something else.
I mean, sometimes you just got to listen and just take that as listen and learn to just accept that and just move on and be at peace with that. I think the biggest thing about, like, one of the biggest elements of adulting is just learning how to be at peace with being in, not necessarily turmoil, but just in the midst of, like, not knowing, right? Like, it's just being in the midst of, like, I'm not sure what's next, but I know
being
what's
okay
behind
with that.
me. Yeah, and just, like, learning to be like, okay, like, Malik Teal has this episode. She did a summer series or whatever. She's only, like, released, like, 2 episodes in this past summer or whatever, but she has a episode where she talks about a podcast episode where she's talking about how, you know, she had to learn, how she's learning to ask for help or whatever. And she had to learn, a line that she mentions in the podcast is like, she had to learn to give herself the grace to not be most poppin'. There's came a place in my career where I've faced a similar thing to you. I would say probably about a year and a half ago, I realized I am miserable. I'm not taking care of myself. I'm getting a bunch of weight. I am not keeping my house up. I'm not keeping my mind up. I'm not keeping my relationships up like I would like. And there are things that are much more important to me than work or my businesses. And so this past year has really been about, even doing this podcast is about dedicating time back to me and things that I just were interested in. And it's been one of the most rewarding, fulfilling experiences of my life. And some days it's really, really good. And some days I'm like, what the hell are you doing, Amanda? What are you doing?
But like you said, overall, it's really, I feel so amazing. My relationships are better. My life is better. My health is better. My mind is clearer. But I wouldn't have known that if I didn't leave, if I didn't do the hard things.
So how did you drown out the noise of telling people that you weren't doing the right thing and that you should continue to be attached to the company?
Yeah, I took, right before I made the decision public, I took a month off of social media. So that way I could just work, because I was working on Diamonde fixing my life at the time. I wanted to focus on being the best producer I could. I meditated. I took walks during lunch. I prayed. And I became very clear within myself. So nobody knows what I need to be doing better than me. Nobody knows what I should be doing. Nobody knows what I have to be doing better than me. So once I became very clear on that, I would just, when people would tell me what I should do, I'm like, you don't know what I should be doing. You don't. And I would I was very clear on my communication. And I also just didn't feel like I had to explain it any further, because this is my life. Please leave me alone. I got tired of trying to explain it. I put it once out on Instagram, and
that's
people
it.
People ask me about it, and it's like, listen, I can't even explain it to you. I'm good. Just know I'm good.
So I gotta ask, what was it like working for Diamonde and working for Queen O, Miss Oprah?
Yeah. So
leaving your company.
Yeah, I haven't. So I worked with Diamonde actually before I started Blossom. So yes, I worked. It's crazy because right before I started Blossom, I worked with her. Right after I left Blossom, I worked with her again. It's kind of crazy. She really bookended my Blossom experience. But I haven't met Oprah yet. We still waiting on that day. But Miss
it's coming. We're gonna manifest.
Yeah.
It.
It's on the way. It's already in the cards. But with working with Miss Diamonde is amazing because she's very clear on who she is. She is very honest, authentic, transparent, hungry, committed, and she treats all of us like human beings. She knows our names. She got us gifts for the end of the season. If she can read me. I remember we had a meeting and we were talking about, we just had a meeting, right? A meeting for the team, and she understands all of us and knows how we all are. And it's really beautiful to be around somebody who just respects that, embraces it, and is really truly themselves.
Well, that's an amazing experience. I think, you hear so many horror stories about being on, sets and things like that where the star or the lead is not so nice to the cast and crew. And so it's nice to hear that she is who she projects herself to be. Both on and off.
It's one of those things where I believe that like attracts like. So when I was on reality TV, I had to look at myself. When I was watching reality, when I was working on reality, I had to look at myself. What in me was attracted to all of this, right? And it's the same everywhere. So there's a part of me that is reflected in Miss Diamonde, and there's a part of Miss Diamonde that's reflected in me. I think that for me, I really believe it's the law of attraction. I'm very blessed because it's not just something that happened. It's something that I wanted, and God saw fit. But I think that there's a part of me that sees myself in her and vice versa.
And that's beautiful. That's a beautiful experience to have. And I can only imagine that can be transformative, because like when you're operating from a place of gratitude and you like recognize like how rare of a thing this is, like you can only take experience like that and like shine that experience and shine what it taught you down on other people.
Yes, that's it. And like I read Miss Iyanla's books. I gift Miss Iyanla's books often because they have really changed my life. I mean, I'm so blessed, and I feel like because the fact that she like used her life and her work to demonstrate it on television in front of millions of people, that further empowered me. That further made me know that it is possible to create and use your life's purpose, like, in many different mediums. Like, because the Iyanla season, Miss Iyanla Fix My Life season number 1 is not the greatest season. It's not the best season. It's not the highest rated season.
But sometimes you got to get to that season 2 or 3.
Exactly. You got to be patient. You got to stick to the vision.
So now you're working on, I don't want to call it a new venture, because it sounds like you were working on this before Blossom, and now you return back to Majority Women. So could you tell us a little bit about that and why you decided to return to that and like kind of start up again?
So I actually started Majority Women while I was at Blossom, because I was like, because we were creating all this original content, and because like I was a producer who then became a founder. So like I was a content creator. I created video and then I started a business. So like that was my heart. That's my first love. That's what I like. Yes, that's my thing. So while at Blossom, started Majority Women, and then when I walked away from Blossom, this is the baby that I got, and this is the baby that I'm taking care of and cultivating now. And so we specialize in producing television shows, creating and executing docuseries, commercials, social media content, and photography. And our team is majority women, mostly women of color. But the goal is to be able to provide women of color with the opportunity to get behind the camera, to produce, to get their first set opportunities. So very much still similar work to what I was doing at Blossom, but I'm 100% focused on content creation and what that looks like. And we've been able to work with so many people, and I've been able to provide so many new women opportunities, young women opportunities to work on set for the first time. Being able to pay them means a lot to me. Like I just tweeted fulfilling invoices from Black people, and that means a lot to me because like I want to be able to provide these women with a chance, because that's what I got. I got so many chances from Black women that this is my way of paying it forward. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. That, and then I host my show, The World Is Ours, where I get to talk to Black women about events and ideologies and the things that affect us. Like my life just revolves around serving, uplifting, empowering Black women.
That's beautiful. Like I feel lighter even like just hearing that.
Thank you. Yes, I'm committed. It's fun. It's so much fun.
Your gifts will make room for you.
Hello. If you got to commit to them though. You got to commit to them. Stick it out, even when it gets ugly.
Yeah, and even I think you have to it's kind of a like there's a seesaw between fear and faith, and you got to choose one or the other.
Yes, yeah, and I really have chosen to live on the other side of the fear and be faithful.
So what's the most surprising thing you've learned or felt since venturing back into entrepreneurship?
Like I think that I've learned how resilient I am, and how much I can actually do. Like I've got it. I can do this if I spend time taking care of myself, though. Like I had to realize, like, all right, I'm not the best person to be having meetings before 10 o'clock. Like I'm not really the best person to do that now. I will sometimes if I have to, but I need at least 3 hours to take my morning walk my dog, eat my breakfast, drink my tea, read my devotionals, read my Bible app, write in my journal, like work, like get my mind adjusted to the day. Like I need that. I also need to be having fun, spending time with my friends, showing up for them, going to other people's events. Like, I didn't realize how much I could actually do in 8 hours, versus like thinking that I had to work all day from 7 a.m. to like 10 p.m. at night. No, I can get a lot done. I can get a lot done from 9 to 6.
Absolutely.
But it requires me to fill myself up just as much as I am giving away to the people, you know. But yeah, I think I've learned a lot about myself, and I think productivity and just how good it feels to be like and hear and see what God has for me and like going after that. We don't got to work all day, y'all. We don't got to work all day and night to get all of this stuff done, to get all the stuff done that we want.
Yeah, I think similarly, like, you know, now that I kind of have like I've gotten so much more done, like in the past year, even in the past like 6 months. Like now that I just kind of start taking care of myself, and I've had the energy and the motivation to kind of push myself to the next level.
Right.
And now I can also see everything I do is now personally fulfilling, and It's a lot easier to execute on those things when it's filling you up and you're in a healthy place in order to fill yourself up. Your cup is full, and so now you can pour into other people, you can pour into other things. It's funny that you said the thing about like working from like 7 to 10 or whatever, because I mean I still work long hours some days, but I've found
some days,
that
same, me too.
But I found myself sleeping in a lot, and like this is like a time in my life I've slept in. I was always the person who like you could text at like 3, 4 a.m. in the morning, and I'd be up doing something. And now I'm like, I'm asleep. Don't bother me.
And I don't feel bad about it, like, because I had to learn at what times work for me. I've always been a night owl, like, I mean, and granted, some people stay up later than me, but like, I'm getting in the bed at like 12 o'clock, you know, and so if I'm getting in the bed at 12 o'clock, I'm probably going to sleep around 12:30, and then like I'm waking up at like 7:30 or 8 o'clock, and I mean, granted, I don't want to wake up that late because I used to wake up at like 5:30, 6 o'clock. But that's some days that I do that, and I have to like be okay with what this is my body talking to me. The same way my body is like, yo, girl, we need to eat. My body will tell me, yo, girl, I need a little extra rest, and then I just have to kind of work it and figure it out from there.
Listen, I did that yesterday. Literally yesterday, I was just like, you know what? Your body is tired. Your mind is tired. Go to bed.
Yes, that's a real thing for the mind.
Yeah, I went to the gym. I was like, I did a little mini workout, and I was like, go to bed, and I slept like a baby.
Probably felt so energized the next day, right?
I was like, I'm finna go to the gym again. I'm finna get in. I'm finna get everything done. I cleaned up the house. I was like, look at me being all domesticated.
That's exactly how it works. Like my Sundays, I used to work like all day on Sundays, and so now I probably do like 3 to 4 hours, but I prioritize meal prepping so that I'm not making unhealthy decisions throughout the week, you know, but it's like I have to take time to do that in order to make sure that, you know, the rest of my week is good, to make sure that I can like enjoy myself, but also like be productive.
For sure. So, you know, I just want to ask you a few more questions. I want to hear what's next from you and Majority Women, and then we have our listener submitted question where we take a question from the audience and our listeners. So let's hear what's next for you, and then we'll get into the question.
So, you know, I'm really prioritizing producing and selling shows to networks. Like, I really want to make sure more women get to see the work that I'm doing. So in the next year, I am expecting to sell a show to a network or a streaming service. So I'm 100% focused on producing my own content, my own original content, bringing these ideas to life, working hard at Majority Women to still make sure that other people can get videos and commercials and docuseries done. I love doing that. And that's it. I mean, I'll be premiering the season 2 of my show. We're going to keep going. Like, I'm just focused on creating. Creating is the name of the game.
So that is a great place to be. I will get into our listener-submitted questions, and then we'll let you have your evening for your self-care, for your reading, or staging, or whatever you're going to be doing tonight. So the question is from a young lady named Sasha. It says, "Hi, Diamond. My name is Sasha. I'm an aspiring startup entrepreneur. Congrats on your success with Blossom and Majority Women. My first leap into entrepreneurship was rough. The business failed, and I ended up in a lot of debt. I'm in the process of getting back in the game, but honestly, I think I might have a little PTSD from the past experience. How do you overcome these feelings of self-doubt, apprehension or fear of repeat failure so that you can start up again?"
So I'm going to be honest. Tasha, right? That's her name, Tasha. Thank you, Tasha.
Yeah.
Sasha, thank you, Sasha. I appreciate you. I just want to let you know you got this. But the thing that's helped me the most is therapy, because the same mind that got me into some of the situations that I was in is not the same mind that was going to get me out of them. And I needed to do some digging, right? So therapy, being able to talk to somebody has helped me out a lot. Support groups for the different needs that I have, for the different challenges that I'm struggling with, have helped me out a lot. I went to a stress and anxiety support group because I was dealing and still do deal with anxiety. So I think that, just figuring out how to get to someone that you can talk to, because we're talking about PTSD. I don't take that word lightly. So I think that talking to a professional about what you're going through and how you're feeling, so you can know that, number one, your experience is valid, and number two, there's a way out of this. We can work this through. We just have to change some of the ways that we've been thinking, change our mind. So therapy, support groups, reading, really figuring out how you can change your mind.
Absolutely. So I think to your point, you really have to change. Something I had to learn in entrepreneurship is and just in life in general, just growing up, is I had to change my relationship with money, and I had to change my relationship with businesses. Seeing myself as, separating myself from the business itself. I am not an extension of my business. A business is something that I do, right? It's not, Sasha, I just don't want you to be out here thinking because the business failed that you're a failure.
Right. The two are not one and the same.
Right. They're not synonymous with one another. So that's one. And then two, learning how to change your relationship with money, and creating healthier habits for yourself. And because I don't know the ins and outs of what happened in the business or whatnot, but if you say you're in debt, I can relate to that. I got credit card debt, whatever. And a lot of that has sparked from, making impulsive, if you will, for lack of a better word, impulsive decisions about, investing things into my business. I don't regret doing those things, but obviously if I could not be in debt, I would prefer that, right? But, I've had over the past year to kind of change my relationship with money, and, I think especially as women, we are taught to not talk about money as much, to not really run the books, or to be, knee deep in the weeds when it comes to dealing with money and the financials and whatnot. And you kind of have to overcome that, in that, you should be prosperous. You shouldn't be swimming in debt. And there are ways to kind of get out of that, but you kind of have to face it first. And stop kind of running from it, and look at, the PTSD or anxiety that you're experiencing right now as just something that you're facing, as something that's temporary, and it's not, the final say of who you are, who you're going to be, and what type of business you run. Most entrepreneurs who are mega successful have, 15, 20 businesses they failed at first. So, it's not a hill to a climber. You'll overcome this, and I'm sure your next venture will be amazing.
Amen.
All right. Well, so with that, that's all I got for you today, Diamond. I think this has been probably our most spiritual, I feel centered episode of the podcast. Yes, I'm really excited to share it and to give our listeners these positive affirmations.
Thank you so much.
Definitely. So I will be in touch. I'll let you know when I touch down in Atlanta, and I'm looking forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks for listening to MVP. If you'd like to hear more from me or our guests, visit mvpodcast.substack.com for exclusive content, updates, and announcements. And if you love the show, please subscribe, rate, and review us, or follow us at The Amanda Spann and MV Podcast. Thanks again, and see you next week.